Okay, let's call the meeting to order. All right. Okay, here we go. I'd like to thank everybody for coming tonight. A couple of housekeeping items before we get going. We got two agendas to get through tonight. We have a small organizational meeting and, of course, the regular council meeting. So, of note tonight, I'm told that our cameras and our equipment are finally working. So this is the inaugural test run of the on live stream video, and so I'd just like to remind all councillors, in order for it to work properly, apparently you have to be speaking into your mic. So hopefully we can keep that in line. I'd also like to thank the councillors that are here wearing their pink shirts tonight. It's in honor of Pink Shirt Day tomorrow, which is the province-wide anti-bullying or Canada-wide anti-bullying campaign. This year the focus is on cyberbullying, and it's a worthwhile cause, and I thank those councillors for stepping up and endorsing the project. All right, so without further ado, let's call to order the organizational meeting for this evening. Can I get a motion to adopt the agenda? Councillor Hendricks.
So moved, Your Worship.
Thank you. Any discussion on the motion?
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to members of council. Pursuant to the Municipal Government Act, council must hold an organizational meeting each year annually. Council is presented with recommendations to appointments to board members, committees, and organizational meetings. On October 24th, 2017, council held an organizational meeting to set the council member, board, and committee appointments for the 2017-2021 council. In completion of the by-election held on February 5th, 2018, administration is amending the council member, board, and committee appointments for the 2017-2021 council to include the new elected official. Administration recommends that council approve the amended council member, board, and committee appointments as presented to take effect immediately and expire on the 2018 organizational meeting.
Thank you very much. Can I get a motion to accept the amended council committee appointments to include Councillor Van Nieuwerk? Councillor Barnhart.
Thank you, Your Worship. I do have a question, but I'll make the motion to approve the appointments. And I would, if I may, carry on. The question is regarding the updating of the names of the committees that were appointed to. I know it's an administrative item, but on my list, I know there's at least 3 that the names are, the committees are the same, but the names have changed, which is kind of strange, but Governance and Priorities Committee is no longer that. Capital Region Board is no longer that, and the Leduc Foundation is no longer that. So they're still operating in the same way, but they are not those names anymore. So I wonder if the administration could just update those names on our list.
Can we do that?
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to Councillor Barnhart. Yes, we can go ahead and update that list to reflect those changes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any further discussion on the motion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Item 3D, Deputy Mayor schedule. Ms. Winter. For some reason, it's not coming up.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to members of council. In accordance with Section 152 of the Municipal Government Act, council must appoint 1 or more councillors as deputy mayor during the current term of the 2017-2021. Deputy mayor appointments are set for 8-month base terms. In completion of the by-election held on February 5th, 2018, administration is amending the schedule for the 2017-2021 deputy mayor and to include the new elected official. Administration recommends that council support the deputy mayor appointment for the 2017-2021 council term for Councillor Van Nieuwerk to take effect November 1st, 2019 to June 30th, 2020.
Thank you very much. Can I get somebody to move the motion? All right, I'll move the motion. I move that we appoint Councillor Van Nieuwerk as stated to the November 1st, 2019 to June 30th, 2020 appointment in the rotation. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. All in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. And the meeting is adjourned. All right. Okay, I'd like to call to order the regular council meeting of Tuesday, February 27th at 7 p.m. Can I get a motion to adopt the agenda? Councillor Hendricks.
So moved.
Is there any discussion on the motion or any amendments to the agenda from administration? None? Any amendments from council? None? Any discussion on the motion? All right, hearing none. All in favor? Hang on, getting there. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is our consent agenda. Tonight we have two items, item 4A and 4B, that council accept the minutes of the February 13th, 2018 regular council meeting as presented, and that council accept the minutes of the February 20th, 2018 committee of the whole meeting as presented. Can I get somebody to move the motion, please? Councillor Danluck.
So moved, Your Worship.
Is there any discussions on the motion? All right. Hearing none, we'll start the vote. And that's carried unanimously. All right, which brings us to the portion of the meeting. We have public hearings. There are two ahead of us tonight. I just got to catch up. Why are you stuck? There we go. All right, our first public hearing tonight is on Bylaw 902-17, land use bylaw amendments for the TCMU temporary home-based business. At this time, I'd like to declare the public hearing open, and if I could get the Supervisor of Legislative or Supervisor of Legislative Service to provide a quick overview of a public hearing. Oh. Fair enough. Ms. Winter.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you and to members of council and the public. Bylaw 902-17, land use bylaw amendments for the TCMU temporary home-based business. The purpose of the public hearing is for proposed bylaw 9021-17, amendment to the land use bylaw 796-12. Bylaw 902-17 is proposed amendment to the land use bylaw to allow temporary home-based businesses as a discretionary use in the TCMU Town Center Mixed Use District. Notice of public hearing was given in writing to all residents residing in the Town Center Mixed Use District. The public hearing notice was advertised in the local newspaper on February 16th and 23rd, 2018. Any written submissions received are included in the public hearing agenda package, and no further submissions have been received. Thank you.
Thank you very much. At this time, I'd like to just remind all persons that are going to be speaking tonight that if you're going to make oral presentations, speak clearly into the mic. Clearly state your name, and please be brief and to the point. Thank you. I see Ms. Dargy's here to present. I remembered their first names, but not their last names.
Thank you, Your Worship and members of council. As indicated, administration has received an application to amend the Town Center Mixed Use District to add temporary home-based business as a discretionary use. The TCMU district is in the Centreville area, and the plan for this area is currently being reviewed, and revisions are anticipated. However, it isn't definitive on what will come out of that review. The current regulations do not permit a home-based business and were drafted such in an effort to promote redevelopment to accommodate mixed commercial residential developments. The applicant has proposed that home-based businesses are a temporary discretionary use. Temporary has been defined for this use as up to 5 years. The time frame of 5 years was selected because it is a reasonable amount of time for a business to establish while recognizing that the Central Area Redevelopment Plan has a 2-year time frame. If we did not put a time limit on the regulations, the permit and conditions would continue to run with the land, and the business would be allowed to continue as is until such time as it had ceased for a period of more than 6 months, thus never allowing the new regulations to take effect. A discretionary use is a use that may or may not be approved by the development officer, and one where conditions may be imposed over and above those contained in the land use bylaw to ensure the impacts of development are minimized. The proposed regulations would apply to all residential properties within the town center mixed-use zone. Please note that the applicant has not yet submitted a development permit for this particular development, and details of the development will be reviewed and assessed by the development office in the normal course.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions of council for the presenter? Okay, hearing none. Thank you very much. Is there a representative of the applicant or their designate that wishes to make an address, please?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm Sean Jordan, and this is Sheldon Jordan. So, yeah, we're going to speak in regards to the bylaw 902-17 in regards to temporary home-based business. I want to start by thanking administration for their help with this matter. They were very helpful in making this happen, and we really appreciate it. So, yeah, for this bylaw, just some of the things that it will do if we if it is approved. It will help encourage business growth in the town center by allowing businesses to get established and grow, and it'll also will help to keep buildings in an area that are unable to develop. It'll help them to have opportunity they'll provide incentive for the property owners to keep the property looking attractive, and then I guess the reason we've brought this forward is that the property that we have, it's in a location that, due to the land size, we're unable to redevelop it to meet the current bylaws, and as well as the changes that are the review that's going on. We're not sure the outcome of that, so it will allow us to do something with this property in the meantime. So the location it's right across, just to the west of the church on top of the hill. We call it the greenhouse. So yeah, our intent is to have the garage as naturopathic office, and in making the change to the garage, we also intend to clean up the outside more or less and make the house a little bit more attractive. I'm going to let Sheldon now here talk a bit about the business that he plans to open up.
Your Worship, members of council, so naturopathic medicine would be an excellent service to bring into Beaumont with the huge growth in population that we've enjoyed over the last few years. The nearest naturopathic offices to Beaumont are in Leduc and Edmonton, and with the increasing demand for that, Beaumont really has the population to support its own office. Once this type of business is established in the town, it brings the potential to bring patients from the greater Edmonton area. At current time, so we've marked out on the map there, this is just a few of many professional buildings in the TCMU right in our neighborhood. So we've got a physiotherapy clinic, a few dental clinics, a walk-in medical center, a pharmacy, massage therapy clinic, an optometrist's office. So bringing naturopathic medicine into this area would increase business for all healthcare practitioners because one of its fundamentals is to create a patient-centered care, working together with other healthcare practitioners to give the patient the very best care from all sides. So naturopathic medicine really does a great job at easing the burden of the medical system, providing complementary treatments for some of the same complaints that a patient might see a general practitioner for, and is extremely effective in preventative health, so lowering healthcare costs, preventing sick days, and creating a healthier population at large. And we've provided a potential office layout for how it might look.
And that's it.
Any questions?
No, I wasn't thinking we were going into that level of detail tonight, but that looks like something that would really add value to our town. So I'll open it up now. Are there any questions of council for the presenters? Councillor Daniluk.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you for the presentation. Welcoming new business at Beaumont is a very good thing for, especially a professional as yourself. How soon can you be up and running with your renovations, do you think? How long renovations take place on that building?
Thank you, Councillor Daniluk. So it would be about within the month of March we should be up and running if all goes well.
And how many staff do you anticipate employing, do you think, in your operation?
A receptionist would be kind of 1 to 2 staff would be kind of it, yeah, keeping it on a smaller scale.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Are there any further questions from members of council? No? Thank you very much. Appreciate you coming in tonight.
Thank you.
Are there any persons present in the chambers tonight that wish to speak in favor of the bylaw? Thank you very much. Are there any persons currently in the chambers this evening that wish to speak in opposition to the bylaw? No. Is there any other person in the chambers that they deem themselves to be affected by this that wishes to be heard? All right, that was quick and easy. Now, sure, that was quick and easy.
Your Worship, my name is Lisa Vanderquek. Members of council, we actually own a property in the same space area, which we were denied actually the ability to have a home-based business because of that bylaw. So I am in favor of review of the bylaw. However, I'm wondering whether or not the temporary use, you know, because it's discretionary, how that is a criteria for that in terms of what are the particular criteria to determine whether or not it is legitimate. My other question is in terms of the presentation tonight. To me, it looked more like a retail space, commercial space that was being presented. And I'm wondering how that fits into the existing bylaw as well, where you cannot do a different additions or any structure additions to a property unless you're going to do a complete overhaul in terms of commercial space, which is what the bylaw says right now. So I just am concerned with, or I'm questioning about the other area, whether or not that's going to affect it or if it's going to be extended in any way.
Fair enough. Is there any member of administration wishing to speak to this point? Because I don't have an answer.
Joanne is aware of the situation.
Please. Yeah, we need a mic.
I was going to call you up.
Thank you. In answer to the question regarding the commercial space, so the regulation is being amended to indicate that the building that accommodates a home-based business is a conforming building for the duration of the development permit. So there are no changes required to the building while a home-based business has a valid permit in that building. So I believe that answers that question. I just need clarification on the question you had with respect to, it was your second question.
How it affects the other properties in that area, as you know, we were denied, right?
So when, and again, the question is...
So how does this extend? Because the question, the actual proposal here is to add temporary home-based business to list of discretionary uses. So what parameters are included in that discretionary use?
And are you asking if it's just this property or
Exactly.
everybody? Yeah. Does it
Exactly.
go to the whole district?
Exactly, and extend it into the area that's in question.
Thank you, Your Worship. So when a use is listed as a discretionary use, the difference between a permitted use and a discretionary use is if it's a permitted use, if someone makes an application and it meets the regulations of the land use bylaw, we have to approve it. There is no refusing it. By making it a discretionary use, the use and the application may or may not be approved by the development authority. And we look at planning considerations. So what's the impact on the adjacent properties based on noise, traffic, if it's going to materially interfere with the amenities of the neighborhood. Office and telephone, for instance, is going to have very little impact on the neighborhood. Something like this is going to generate traffic. So when the development permit is submitted, the items that we would look at are what is the layout of the site, where is parking going to be accommodated, how many employees will they have on site, what are the business hours, because this is still a residential building in a converting neighborhood. So what are the impacts to that? And those are the items that we would be looking at in the development permit. And those are the same items we would look at with any application that we would receive.
So is this particular property in question, does that have a mixed land use, like a commercial residential zoning on it right now?
Your Worship, yes, it is a TCMU, so we're there amending the regulation, and that would apply to all TCMU districts.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that answers my question in terms of this would be extended to the whole area that has the same zoning in terms of the TCMU.
That's
under
correct.
it, right?
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you very much. Yes, thank you very much, Councilor.
Thank you very much. One last chance. Is there anybody else that wishes to address this public hearing before we close it? All right. I declare the public hearing closed at 7:24 p.m. All right. We have a second public hearing tonight on bylaw 895-17, our planned areas, consolidated area structure plan. Oh, yes. We should go get Councillor Hendricks. We got 6. It's enough. Sorry. Sorry. All right. Starting again. I'd like to declare the public hearing open at 7:24 p.m. Ms. Winder, if you'd like us to give the overview of this one, that'd be great.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you and to members of council and the public. The purpose of the public hearing is for proposed bylaw 895-17 to adopt the area planned areas consolidated area structure plan. Notice of the public hearing was given in writing to the relevant agencies, including the City of Edmonton, Leduc County, and the school authorities. The public hearing notice was advertised in the local newspaper on February 16th, February 23rd, 2018. Written submissions received have been included in the public hearing agenda package. I have received 2 late submissions from Leduc County dated February 27th, 2018, and Alberta Health Services dated for February 27th, 2018, and I will read those into the record now. Consolidated Area Structure Plan. Thank you for referring the above area structure plan to the Leduc County for review. Leduc County commends the town of Beaumont for taking these steps to bring their planning in compliance with the Edmonton Metropolitan Growth Board and the updated Edmonton Metropolitan Growth Plan. Leduc County notes that while these outline plans were never approved by the Capital Region Board and therefore do not have the benefit of being grandfathered, however, the county also recognizes the challenges that the town would face trying to comply with the EMRGB density targets, considering that these plans were supported by engineering studies that assumed different density targets and that it may not be feasible for the town to revisit the servicing strategy of the entire plan area. With that in mind, the county has the following comments. Leduc County requests that policy 5.1.8A be amended to clarify that the proposed density target of 25 to 35 dwelling units per net residential hectare will be achieved within the boundaries of the previously adopted outline plans and does include the Lakeview ASP. The Leduc County requests that policy 5.1.8G be strengthened to encourage compliance with the EMRGP. The proposed ASP does not include a comprehensive traffic impact assessment, and Leduc County would request that the ASP supporting with the comprehensive TIA to facilitate planning and the arterial roads and noted in the ASP. Leduc County notes that the proposed ASP does not include provisions for affordable housing, which does not appear to be in accordance with the Edmonton Metropolitan Regional Growth Plan. Leduc County would prefer the proposed ASP include policy directing the provision of affordable housing opportunities. If you have any questions or concerns, please contact the undersigned. Sincerely, Benjamin Ansaldo, Planner 1, Long Range Planning. Dated for February 27th, 2018. Dear Ms. Raymond, this application process consolidating previously approved outline plans and area structure plans to apply a hierarchy of planning and organization development for the area 12 quarter sections and 16 neighborhoods. The goals and objectives stated for the consolidated ASP were considered as they relate to the design of the healthy communities. There are 5 health aspects to healthy community design, including neighborhood design, transportation, housing, natural environments, and food systems. Healthy neighborhood design, compact development with mixed use creates attractive urban settings for residents, neighborhoods become more walkable with connected and active transportation routes to nearby services, facilities, and commercial areas. Automobile dependency is reduced within compact neighborhoods. Healthy transportation networks. Active transportation networks will be thoughtfully developed with safe, convenient, and connected routes. Public transportation networks will also be created. Healthy housing. Housing will be available in a variety of density options intended to be available to a range of income levels and ages. Residential support and assisted living facilities is planned to help allow residents to remain in their neighborhood throughout their lifetime. Natural environments. Existing recreation and open space areas are expected to be enhanced with the new natural environments provided in new neighborhoods. Healthy food systems. There was little to no mention of healthy food systems in the summary of the consolidated ASP, although there may be more information in individual outline plans. Healthy food systems in community design and include improving access to healthy foods through strategies such as community gardens, edible landscapes, and encouraging healthy food retail options. Alberta Health Services supports these strategies for municipal development as it helps residents to make healthy choices. Providing safe pedestrian infrastructure and improving a neighborhood's walkability increases active travel. Increasing physical activity will decrease the rates of chronic health diseases in the community and help decrease costs of social programs and supports. Parks and open spaces provide both active and passive recreation opportunities for all ages, which have both physical and mental benefits for users. Promoting transit compact neighborhoods with a variety of housing options and active transportation creates social connections, reduces vehicular air pollution, and decreases the cost of road maintenance. Public agriculture and edible landscapes provide healthy food choices and connect community residents. The town of Beaumont is already incorporating many of these healthy community design objectives into municipal planning. Alberta Health Services supports compact community design that is inclusive and promotes active, healthy living. Thank you for the opportunity to provide the feedback on the consolidated ASP. Sincerely, Corinne Anderson, Public Health Inspector.
Thank you, Ms. Winter. All right, as we get going now, I'd just like to remind everybody that if you're going to come up and give an oral presentation, please clearly state your name into the mic for the record, and please keep your presentations brief and to the point. I'd like to now ask Ms. Raymond to give us an overview.
Thank you, Your Worship and members of Council. So we're here tonight to hold a public hearing for Bylaw 895-17, our planned areas consolidated area structure plan, which can be found on page 33 of your agenda package. The Consolidated Area Structure Plan was initiated in spring 2017 and received first reading in November 2017. The purpose of our planned areas Consolidated Area Structure Plan is to consolidate historic outline plans within an overarching statutory planning framework as a housekeeping amendment. In addition, the Consolidated Area Structure Plan provides the guidance for the development of a neighborhood structure plan for the proposed Lakeview neighborhood in the southeast, which is previously known as Plains Royer. The plan area involves the perimeter of Beaumont's pre-2017 boundary as shown on map 1, neighborhoods and plan area. The Consolidated Area Structure Plan is divided into 8 main sections, which include a land use concept and servicing concept to guide the full build out of the plan area. The historic previously approved outline plans for the areas within the Consolidated Area Structure Plan are attached to this plan as appendices. The CASP will replace the separate resolutions that adopted and amended these previously approved outline plans in effect, and they will be repealed. There will be no more outline plans within the town of Beaumont that exist after this. Future development of undeveloped areas will be governed by map 10. The appendices aid the implementation of the Consolidated Area Structure Plan in greater detail, and amendments to those appendices shall only be required if they are substantive, such as those that propose a change in land use where you go from commercial to residential, or if there are significant changes in transportation, if you're adjusting collector roads and really adjusting the transportation network. If there are minor changes in the opinion of the Development Authority that include adjustments between the areas for existing land use designations and the reconfiguration of open space designations, it will not require an amendment to be made. So the Municipal Development Plan provides direction for the creation of this document in conformance with the 2010 Capital Region Growth Plan as a Consolidated Area Structure Plan. We have a number of policies that were included in your memo that address what needed to be considered within this plan. Public engagement for the Consolidated Area Structure Plan occurred primarily through targeted stakeholder engagement, as the development of many of the outline plans each had their own public engagement activities and processes. And the CASP is aligning them within a statutory framework and is not changing any of those plans. Administration held a meeting with all the applicable developers in the plan area on October 23rd, 2017, to outline the key plan components, describe any amendment processes, and answer how this might affect them. After that meeting, the Urban Development Institute submitted a letter supporting the Consolidated Area Structure Plan approach and some minor suggestions for our consideration. We've also met with the Edmonton Metropolitan Region Board, our neighbors, the City of Edmonton, well, soon-to-be neighbors, the City of Edmonton, and Leduc County to discuss the plan. And nobody had any concerns with our approach to this. Everybody recognizes that we do have historic plans and that there are challenges that are associated with those. And they were generally in favor of what we were trying to accomplish, so we were pleased with that. I'll just address a couple of comments that were received from Leduc County, which were the only negative comments that we received when we talked to Leduc County and the City of Edmonton. And that is in regards to the transportation impact assessment. Since we're not changing any of those previously approved plans, and we will not be doing a comprehensive transportation impact assessment on those lands. The town is in the process of developing a transportation master plan, which will provide future guidance, and if they do make significant changes, those will be addressed as that goes along, and may include things like a TIA at that time. The density targets for this are to apply to undeveloped areas of the town, of these planned areas. So it is in regards to 25 to 35 dwelling units per net residential hectare, which was the density target underneath the old growth plan. This is a housekeeping historical amendment, and had these actually been area structure plans already, we wouldn't be having to go through this process. But because they're outline plans, we're applying a statutory framework. We're just almost in a sense grandfathering, but not quite. So it's a housekeeping amendment. So that's why they're developed to that. Lakeview will be developed to 35 dwelling units per net residential hectare. We have incorporated Lakeview into this document because it is the consolidated area structure plan is the higher level plan for that next level down. So Lakeview is a neighborhood structure plan. We've provided some high level transportation, land uses that are within there, and then overall policies that guide that development. The Lakeview neighborhood structure plan will not be approved until the consolidated area structure plan is approved by council. So following this, we will be sending this off to the Edmonton Metropolitan Region Board for review and approval through the Regional Evaluation Framework process. And then after that approval is received, we will bring this back for third reading. Thank you.
Fair enough. Are there any questions of members of council? Councillor Hendricks.
Your Worship. Potential of talking with the MS Society on designs, area structure plans, that sort of thing. Dr. Gary Wheeler from the Edmonton chapter and his group can offer up some expertise on what they see as a neighborhood structure that will assist or help or actually hinder the MS program in terms of people who are afflicted with this. So I thought it was interesting when I met with him and he mentioned those comments to me. So I said, well, maybe we can reach out to them and just see what it is that they have for parameters that drives design and MS.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Councillor Munkoff Swain.
Yeah, I think I heard it right. I just wanted to, there was a comment from the letter that Ms. Winter read out from Leduc County. You said when you're addressing a lot of the concerns that they had, you only spoke to the TIA, but they had a comment about the lack of affordable housing opportunities. I wondered if you could just provide some clarification as to either why it's not in there and if it's in other statutory documents, just the comment that they made. I wonder if you could just speak to that, please.
Absolutely. Through your worship to Councillor Munkoff Swain, affordable housing is something that we definitely do consider and we do promote. It is within our new municipal development plan, the pending plan, but we can definitely take a look at those recommendations from Leduc County and incorporate that and bring that back for the third reading.
Thank you. Any further questions of council? None. Thank you very much. Is there anybody in the audience wishing to speak in favor of this bylaw this evening? Anybody wishing to speak in opposition? Any other person in the chamber that wishes to address council on this matter at all? All right, hearing none. Thank you very much. We will declare the public hearing closed at 7:40 p.m. All right, there are no registered presentations this evening, so I would ask if there's anybody in the council chambers that wishes to address council in English, not my first strong suit tonight. Are there any unregistered presentations? Is there anybody wishing to address council on any other matter? Please come to the mic. State your name for the record.
Jim Witherspoon, 3603 60th Street, Beaumont. This is something that has been sticking in my craw for an awful long time. I think we're over-radared. We are gaining in outside this town a reputation that is not one that you want to get if you're looking for business to come in and people to come in because of the excessive radar. I spend a lot of time out on the streets, and I see a lot of things with the radar that should not happen. I see frivolous ticket issued on frivolous matters, in my opinion. We have the hired guys out there hiding. I call them parasites because that's exactly what they are. Then we have the peace officers who used to be bylaw officers. I'd like to see them do more bylaw and a lot less radar. And then we have the RCMP. To listen to the RCMP's statements out of Ottawa, it's all about safety, it's all about slowing down, it's all about saving lives, it's all about all of this stuff, and it's a big fairy tale without one single shred of evidence anywhere to support their claims. Certainly no shred of evidence coming from without their organization. You don't need to be issuing a ticket in order to slow the public down. This town, and I've lived here almost 40 years, is not known for street racing, screaming tires in the middle of the night, and people driving really irresponsible. There might be the odd guy. I speed all the time. Might be 2 or 3 kilometers, it might be 10. If I'm out on 50th and I'm the only one out there, I'm not looking at my speedometer. I'm looking at the road where I should be looking. And if we're trying to fulfill budget shortfalls, that's not the way to be doing it, and it is a cash cow. The former Federal Minister of Transportation in the previous government said publicly that that's exactly what it was a cash cow, always was, always will. If you want to slow down tickets or speeders, then be visible. Pull over the side of the road, flip your lights on. You don't need to be hiding behind the dollar store where the big way used to be waiting to catch somebody. I mean, there's like Dukes of Hazzard out there. Slow them down. You don't have to issue that ticket. If it's dark, put the lights on. Everybody can see it. If an officer has somebody pulled over and he's got his lights on as he should, everybody slows down because they see him. The minute they're by, if they happen to be going to speed just a little bit, and that's an open-ended phrase, speed, but they know that officer is busy, so they're not going to be particularly worried about being 5K over, not until he's busy back there. It's the lights that slow you down until they get past. That's all you need to be doing. You don't need to be choking people. As far as these hired guys, I understand some communities are getting rid of them because there's a big pushback. I call them parasites, that's all they are, and they are there to generate revenue. They are not in marked vehicles, nor are they peace officers of any sort. They are hired contractor, nothing more, nothing less. And if we can't police, if you're looking at speeders and safety with the RCMP and the number of peace officers that we have, you got a real problem with management. You don't need that third group out there generating revenue for you, and all we have to do is look at the record and your budgetary to see how much money is coming into the town coffers, thanks to those guys. Anyways, that's my tirade on those guys. The sooner they're gone, the better. And it almost amounts to harassment for people. You know, where are they going to jump out of the bush next? Behind the big way, behind the sign, behind the fence there, with this unmarked pickup truck. Anyways, I hope you get rid of it.
Well,
it's time.
I appreciate your comments. I know Councillor Stout is bringing a motion forward tonight and to at least start the discussion, and we'll see what he's proposing, and Council will handle it from there. But I do appreciate your comments.
Thank you.
Are there any more? Is there anybody else wishing to address Council this evening? Okay. Moving on, item 7A. Development permit 2018-66, Direct Control District, Colonial Gate, home-based business. I'd like to ask Ms. Dargy to come back up and see us.
Thank you, Your Worship, members of council. Presented to you tonight is a development permit for a home-based business development to be located at 18 Colonial Gate. This site is currently zoned direct control, and there are no specific regulations written for this district. In the absence of direction in the land use bylaw, council is the decision-making authority for all permits in this district. Council policy number 6 states that the development officer shall refer the development permit application to council, that council shall receive the permit request and by resolution direct a public hearing be held and determine the date and time for that public hearing. It is important to note that decisions made by council on development permit applications are not appealable to the Subdivision Development Appeal Board. The public hearing is the opportunity for affected parties to present any information they may have regarding the permit prior to council's decision. Administration recommends that council receive the development permit and recommended permit conditions, and in accordance with the procedural bylaw, schedule a public hearing on March 27th at 7 o'clock in the council chambers to hear anyone wishing to speak on this matter.
Thank you very much. Quick question before we move the motion. Can you just give us a quick background on why this particular area is a direct control?
This area has been direct control since the early 90s. It was, this area is in Colonial Estates, and it's an adult living complex. So it was the district at the time, they wanted to do something specific that we didn't have regulations for, so it was direct control, and it was brought forward to council. The approval of that entire development was at council's discretion.
Okay. Follow-up question then, do we have districts that would take into account this now? Because this seems to be a pretty routine matter.
This is a coincidence, I think, that you've had 2 in the last couple of meetings. We haven't had applications for a number of years in direct control districts. As we're rewriting the land use bylaw, we can consider writing regulations for this particular district and incorporate them with the revisions of the bylaw.
Awesome. Thank you very much. All right. Can I get a member of council to move the recommendation? Councillor Daniluk.
So move, Your Worship. Thank you.
Would you like to speak? Very good.
Oh, good. Thank you.
All right. Is anybody else? Are there any other council members that wish to speak to the motion in front of us today? Councillor Hendricks.
Particular area, if that could come back to us at the next meeting.
I can get you that information.
Thank you.
Fair enough. Are there any further questions? Hang on, I got to catch up. All right, if there are no further questions, I'll call the vote. All in favor? Carried unanimously. All right. Next item on the agenda is item 7B, a notice of motion for speed enforcement through photo radar. I'll ask Ms. Winter to speak to it, and then I will be moving to Councillor Stout because it's his motion. Ms. Winter?
Thank you, Worship. Through you and to members of the council and public. The notice of motion that will be presented this evening is with respect to the speed enforcement through photo radar. There was a notice of motion put forward at the February 13th, 2018 regular council meeting from Councillor Stout, who made the following motion: that council ceases the use of private contractor for the purpose of traffic speed enforcement through photo radar as soon as any existing contract expires. Should council support the motion, administration will provide a follow-up within 3 months. Administration is looking for direction on how to proceed this evening. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Stout, would you like to make your motion and speak to it?
Thank you, Worship. Yes, I'd like to make that motion. The motion is, as I brought forward, the notice of motion is, let's see if I can find the exact wording. Well, it's on the screen there. The council creates the use of a private, ceases the use of a private contractor for the purpose of traffic speed enforcement through photo radar as soon as existing contracts expire. Now, I have been looking for information about those existing contracts and the policy that supports them, and I've come up a little short, so I'm hoping that administration will be able to help me out here. But the first thing I'm going to do is what I was able to find on automated traffic enforcement (photo radar) on the town website is the following statement: that automated traffic enforcement technology has been used to deter speeding and reduce motor vehicle collisions in Beaumont since 1998. Beaumont's automated traffic enforcement policy ensures compliance with current provincial guidelines. The criteria approved by Beaumont Council regarding automated traffic enforcement operations includes, but is not restricted to, high-risk, high-frequency and high-collision locations. Automated traffic enforcement technology is used in conjunction with existing conventional enforcement and is not a replacement for officer contact. There is a phone number given on the website as well, but I found that it was out of use. Anyway, my understanding is that the contract is with a company called Global Traffic Enforcement, and that the current contracts expire sometime in 2019, although I'd like to get a more precise date than that if I can. So it is timely and appropriate that we review this policy now, I believe, and with a view to whether or not we want to continue it or not. And it seems to me that the reason for continuation would be that it is actually an effective policy that is achieving its goals. And since we've been using photo radar to deter speeding and reduce motor vehicle collisions in Beaumont since 1998, I would expect that there must be 20 years of data that can tell us whether or not this actually makes the roads safer. Because the null hypothesis position in the absence of any data would be that it doesn't. Therefore, if that is the case, if we cannot show that it does not improve road safety, then I would move that we cease further use of this policy. I am aware, having read the 2018 budget, that we have a $202,500 budgeted amount of revenue from this policy, but that is not the stated objective of using photo radar. Obviously, that would have to be made up from other sources in the budget if we were to drop it in 2018, which I'm not proposing because our contracts have not yet expired. However, administration advises me that the $202,500 is actually only 30% of the revenue that's raised through traffic fines. The rest goes to the province and to the contractor, who is therefore incentivized. The contractor is therefore incentivized to give out as many tickets as they possibly can, which means that we are charging residents of Beaumont and visitors to Beaumont $675,000 in order to generate a revenue of $202,500, which seems to me an inefficient way of collecting revenue, which is not in any event the stated purpose of the policy. So I'd ask that we look to measures to make up that revenue if we decide that we cease the use of photo radar for traffic enforcement.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Just before we open the floor up to total discussion, quick question for admin. Do we know when that contract's expiring? Mr. Hiltz?
Thank you, Worship.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you, Worship. Members of Council, the contract expires June 30th, 2019.
All right, so we do have a little bit of time. Do we know what the process is if we wish to end it early?
Yes, Your Worship. It is a 6-month written notice by the municipality.
Okay. Thank you. Councillor Stout, you've raised a whole bunch of really big questions. Can I propose a friendly amendment to your motion? Because you've proposed to cease it all. Can we amend the motion to read that Council directs administration to bring a review of the photo radar program to committee of the whole meeting in, say, Q3? Because we had some big items on our agenda for the next couple months, and we do have some time. and then council can review it and we can go forward as a whole. Can we do
Yes,
that?
certainly. I'd like to. I had hoped, I should add, that I would be able to find more information than I have been able to find. So I was looking for some assistance, or I am looking for assistance to find information. And if the best way to do that is through a committee of the whole meeting, then yes, I would like to do that as soon as we can reasonably schedule it. And if that is third quarter of this year, then...
Well, it's a quarter I'd like to do it in, but we'll see if admin is in agreement with that. But the bigger reason is that also gives us a little bit of chance, too, for all council members to send to Mr. Hilton, our CAO, their questions so that they can develop the information over a couple of months that we need. So then that's sort of where I want to sit with it. Because if we voted on the way you did it tonight, we're done in 2019.
Yes.
So,
I
and I'm
will
not prepared to
make
do
a
that.
friendly amendment to that effect. There is nothing, as I've just understood from Mr. Hiltz, there is nothing we can do to change the policy, effectively change the policy, before 1st of January 2019 then.
Yeah, so, yeah, quarter 3 gives us an adequate amount of time to deal with this and renegotiate.
Again, I will, if you assure me that that is so, then yes, I agree.
CAO, are you okay with quarter 3? Thank you. Ms.
Thank you,
Winter?
Your Worship, through and to council. I just want to confirm that the friendly amendment to the motion from Councillor Stout, that council direct administration to bring a review to the committee of the whole in quarter 3.
Thank you. Are there any discussions on the motion as amended? Councillor McGuswain.
Just a question that I had, and I think it was asked last time, but I appreciate the motion has changed, but when we say that cease the use of a private contractor, just to confirm, you're talking about eliminating it completely, right? Not something looked at that the town is now going to be going through and potentially taking this on. Would that be accurate?
Yes.
Okay.
Councillor Van Nieuwerk.
Hello, thank you, Your Worship. Question for Councillor Stout on the idea of use of a private contractor for the purpose of traffic speed enforcement through photo radar. Is the intent to only discuss photo radar, or is the intent to discuss other means of non-personal traffic cameras, red light cameras, movable, portable cameras?
So the whole photo package.
The whole gambit of non-personnel completed photo enforcement.
My intent was to include what is now described as automated traffic enforcement. So yes, I suppose that would include other forms of.
Yeah, just as a matter of clarity.
No, I think clarity is important, and I thank you for drawing. I'm
not the only one struggling tonight.
I thank you for the question.
Councillor Barnhart.
Thank you, Your Worship. And through you to the administration, I wonder if we could also include the RCMP in the report that comes back, so that we have, I'm sure they would be one of the sources of the data, but also I'd like to hear their point of view about removing this from our town and what the impact of that might be.
Minister Hiltz.
Thank you, Worship, and to Councillor Barnhart. Yes, the RCMP will be able to comment on their views of photo radar. And just for a point of clarification for Councillor Van Nieuwenkerk, is that we only offer, within the town of Beaumont, we only do photo radar. We have no cameras, no hidden cameras, no side of the road cameras, no portable cameras. They're just the ones that are within the vehicles.
Councillor Van Nieuwerk.
Just through you, Your Worship, to administration. I had thought there was a video camera for stop signs that is providing tickets to people.
Oh, okay, we're headed down a rabbit hole tonight, and the motion is to bring this all to a committee of the whole meeting in quarter 3, and we can get into the nuts and bolts of what we actually do and do it all then. If you don't mind, could we table that discussion till then?
Fair enough.
Thanks. Any further discussion on the motion at hand, and not the photo radar program in general? We're good. All right, so let's All in favor? That's carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Okay, brings us to item 7C, notice of motion to host a business summit in Beaumont in 2018. Once again, I'll ask Ms. Winter to give us the quick overview, and then I'll be moving to Councillor Munkoff-Swain, whose motion this is. Ms. Winter.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you and to members of council and the public, the notice of motion that will be presented this evening is with respect to Beaumont hosting a business summit in 2018. There was a notice of motion put forward at the February 13th, 2018 regular council meeting from Councillor Munkoff-Swain, who made the following notice of motion. That council direct administration to prepare a plan to host a business summit in Beaumont in 2018. Should council support the motion, administration will provide a follow-up within 3 months. Administration is looking for direction on how to proceed. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Munkoff-Swain.
Thank you, Your Worship. So we all know how important it is to attract new business to town, and we're all been through that campaign and talked about the need to improve the commercial to resident tax ratio. However, before we go out looking to attract new business, I think it's important that we look after our existing businesses first. We all engaged and continue to hear from businesses about some of the things that go well and things that could be improved here. So what I'm proposing is that we invite all businesses in Beaumont, both storefront and home-based businesses, the Chamber, as well as other business networks, to a session with administration and council to continue to build our relationship with them. So I think it's really important to hear from them what is working, but also what can be improved when it comes to working with the town, both from a setting up your business perspective as well as the day-to-day operations. So the motion asks administration to do a lot of the legwork to organize the event, but my vision for this would be kind of a day session, perhaps at the CCBCC, where it's moderated by a consultant. We'd have kind of several round tables where businesses would be at. We'd have a council member and admin staff as well there, really just to kind of listen to the discussion. As mentioned, the consultant will provide a list of questions, and ultimately they would provide some notes and recommendations back to council for discussion and hopefully action. So the purpose of this is to continue to grow the positive relationship with our existing businesses and show them that we're committed to working with other businesses in town. The time frame that Ms. Winter just spoke to, she had indicated 3 months. I was hoping for a little bit earlier than that, just from to really line it up with the land use bylaw. I appreciate organizing something like this is a significant task. So something kind of spring, early summer-ish. To really get this, in order to be able to organize it, to be able to make sure that business have time. We've got the recommendations and we can adopt them potentially through the land use piece. So again, to summarize, what this is really about doing is providing an open forum for businesses to share the things that are working well and share the things that they would hope to change from a town and administration perspective. It shows that we'll be listening to them and see where we go from there. So I hope you choose to support me with this motion. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm just confused. Can you make your exact motion so I know what we're talking about?
Yeah, that council directs administration to prepare a plan to host a business summit in Beaumont in 2018.
Okay. Thank you. So moved. Put a bit of a framework on this for me. I got a couple questions for administration. Where are we at with our economic development framework? And I think we're, to speak to Councillor Munkoff-Swain's point, what were we sort of planning to do for engagement in the land use bylaw, and does this line up? And is this something we were going to do anyway? Sorry, do you need me to repeat the question?
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, please. I was just asking Kendra a very similar question.
Okay, just want to put a bit of a framework on this, because just where we're at with currently with our economic development framework, and just to speak to Councillor Munkoff-Swain's question about where this fits in the land use bylaw area, and if we were going to do something similar as part of it.
Thank you, Your Worship. So In the past couple of meetings, we've had some updates and charters put forward for the land use bylaw, and then also for the central area redevelopment plan and the economic strategy that's going to be developed with that. So the economic strategy, as part of that work, there is going to be interviews conducted with business owners, and that will be for the business retention and attraction study. And then the land use bylaw component, there's going to be a ton of engagement in this community, and that's going to cover all sorts of things in regulations in the bylaw, signage, and potentially could change a lot of our processes depending on what comes out in the end. So that this year is going to be another very heavy year of engaging the community. So that's something to think about as well.
Okay. And so were we going to be doing some type of meeting with this, like Councillor Margosain proposes, as part of this, of anything?
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, throughout the only thing that may not be covered, which I wouldn't suggest meeting with business owners about this year, would be the new processes that kind of shake out of what all these conversations are going to be. So if this year we're working on what the new requirements are going to be, how those requirements are going to change, towards the end of the year as these projects start to wrap up, then we'll be launching new processes, and that again takes some work with the community for anything that's changing, kind of education and implementation. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Daniluk.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm going to speak totally in favor of this motion. I think it's a fantastic idea. I spoke to business people around Beaumont, and the idea of a forum has been well received. I think people I've spoken to about it. I understand the administration, as you mentioned a moment ago, Ms. Mohammed talked about some plans for community engagement, but I think this forum needs to happen sooner rather than later. I understand there are restrictions on time and so on planning. I've been involved in planning conventions before. They can be very, very onerous, but I think this is more of a one-day forum to let business people know that we're interested in talking to them as soon as we possibly can. So I would hope the administration would help us to get this happening as soon as possible. Thank you.
Councillor Barnhart.
Thank you, Your Worship. And I too like the idea. I think it's a good time to be doing it. I would like to address, if I may, through you to Ms. Mohammed, a question. So she's getting questions from all sides. Sorry. Would the timing of this help with the development of the land use bylaw and some of the issues? Would it? And I'm worried about timelines and costs and resources. That's kind of where this is coming from. I think it's a really good idea, and I do agree with Councillor Daniluk that I think the timing is better to hear now what the general concerns are and then address the specifics later. But I am concerned about the timeline. Can we get this done in 2018 and meet all of the other requirements, resource-wise, cost-wise, timing-wise? That's a lot there, but I think you get where I'm going.
Ms. Mohammed, would you like? Oh, hang on.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through to Councillor Barnhart. There is no doubt that resourcing is an issue. The challenge here is figuring out when in these processes this type of discussion should take place. Because if you have a meeting with business owners before you get going with the land use bylaw, then you may be talking about old things that are changing anyway, versus organized meetings during the land use bylaw that, say, focus on signage, one of our topics, right? Then that's going to be a very fulsome discussion about signage and very focused on it. There are, different opportunities that we could look at for this. I suppose it's just an understanding of what's being looked for here. So moderated by a consultant, how can we do better? And I guess the questions that I would ask is, what aspects are we looking at of how we could do better? Are we talking about processes, or are we talking about zoning, land use, and regulation? Because if those are the things that we're talking about, those are going to get captured in land use bylaw process that's already going forward, already paid for, already budgeted for. So it's just the question, if council wants something separate to happen, we will make it happen. However, many of these things, if not all, dare I say, will be addressed through the processes that we've already planned through the economic studies and the land use bylaw review.
Well, yeah, and that actually echoes my concern. Like, I think it's a great idea to engage businesses. I just don't want to be duplicating work we're already doing, or if we can incorporate this into planning we're already doing. Councillor Munkoff-Swain.
Thank you, Your Worship, and Ms. Mohammed. So while I appreciate that there's a lot of work to go through an engagement planned, the initial proposal that got put forward, we saw the IAP2 spectrum of engagement and all that sort of stuff, and so I understand that there's a lot of work that happens there. I think the real benefit of doing this up front is it gives council a chance to really be there in the room and hear it directly from it. We've done several engagement activities, whether it's MDP over time, and how I wouldn't say they're terribly well attended, and I think by doing this up front can achieve two things. One is that it shows, as Councillor Danlick mentioned, it shows that we are really wanting to engage and hear their concerns, and that gives council a chance to be in the room, hear them up front early, so that as we start to go through the land use bylaw process, we've already heard that kind of flavour of the questions and what's going on in town. I think we've all heard it separately, but so it'd be nice to get it into a room. And so my point about capturing recommendations to bring back to council for further discussion, I think it could be refined to the different topics that I would look for administration to bring forward. I also appreciate the fact that we don't want to meet just for the sake of meeting if there is something down the road, but what bringing people into this business, if we invite people in for a day, we give them lunch, we show that we're willing to listen to them. I think that'll really promote the engagement that'll happen during the land use during the engagement for the land use bylaw. By just throwing an ad in a paper and putting it up on our website, it's a little bit more difficult to get people to come to this. So by having a formal process where council is there, we've got some organised discussion topics. It's just we're looking for general ways that things are going well and things that can be improved. And like I mentioned, I'd get administration to kind of frame those out. But by engaging them early, I think you're going to get a lot more participation throughout the land use bylaw process, and that can only be a good thing. So. I think that there is a need to have this up front and early on, and I'd hope for administration support for that. I'll reserve my final comment if this goes differently. So I'll cede the floor here.
Councillor Stout.
Thank you, Worship. Do we know what the cost of this exercise will be and how much and how we budget it? In particular, is it an extra item to the budget, or is it something that's already included in a budgeted item?
No, this is currently unbudgeted. It would be extra to the cost, and my big fear is it'd be duplicate work. But I'll let administration speak to that. CEO?
Yeah, I wouldn't add anything to that. At this point, it's unbudgeted, and as Ms. Mohammed said, it sounds like we're getting the same information as part of the LUB and the other consultation. The other fear I have is that we over-consult, and the community does give us feedback from time to time that, just get on with it and come back and ask those questions. That's the fears from administration, but as Ms. Mohammed said earlier, if that's what you want to do, then that's what we'll do. We'll come back with a plan and a budget.
Councillor Van Nieuwerk. Sorry, hang on. We're going to go back to Ms. Mohammed. I'll get right back to you.
Sure. Thank you, Worship. Something else that I just want to offer up in terms of process when it comes to the Central Area Redevelopment Plan economic work that's going to happen, as well as the land use bylaw. Part of that process is before we have any sort of public event or public engagement, that will come to committee of the whole beforehand. All the engagement materials are shared, and that might be an opportunity as well for elected officials to weigh in on perhaps certain questions that they want answered from the business community when we're already going out there already in an organized event. So that might be an easier solution rather than planning something separate. We can collect that information as we go while we already have people attending the events. Thank you.
All right, going back to Councillor Van Nieuwerk.
Hello, I would also speak in favor of this motion. Feedback is something that's very important to me. The danger of feedback is that there's an inherent expectation that you're going to do something with it. I think on the front end of anything, engaging early is important, and I think this idea is kind of novel because it's engaging in a different way. It's not the traditional way we've engaged, which is, put an ad in the paper, do a public hearing, and the formal process that has its time and place. Everyone isn't comfortable with that. One of the more effective sessions that I attended in the last year was the 50th Ave redevelopment, and I think it was a transportation master plan when it was a roundtable session, and there was residents that came, and there was a mediator and a counselor at each table. And I share with you from a resident perspective, I left with a smile on my face. I left feeling engaged. I left feeling that I had a voice. I left with connections to the consultants. I left with connections to the counselors, and it was a very important piece for myself. I look back at my notes as well, and one of the outcomes of the strategic planning workshop was, well, two of them. One was connecting with residents, and a lot of our local businesses are local residences, so that's, we're working towards that as well. And then number 6 is economic growth. So understanding what our businesses are up against and what some of their perils, concerns, setbacks, hesitations up front would definitely help me connect as I move forward as a councillor in Beaumont. So that's my comments. Thank you.
Councillor Monkoff-Swain.
Just to speak to the, or maybe ask first a quick question. So in the budget we had taken $100,000 for, you know what I mean? It was
economic development.
Economic development. So I would first of all, the cost for this to rent out the CCBCC and feed a bunch of people. I can't see that being too cumbersome. But could we not? My first question: could we not pay for this out of the $100,000 economic development budget?
CEO?
Yes, we could. If you recall, when that budget was presented, or that line on the budget was presented to council, was that we would bring back proposals, and then you would approve how that money is spent. So it's in the budget, and you're certainly welcome to choose to use it that way. This is not as cheap as you think it would be. Sure, we've got the CCBC, you've got food, you've also got the price of a consultant, so we're probably getting up there, between around the $7,000 range. But absolutely, we would bring back a project plan to council and decide to take it out of that $100K, then that's what we did.
Oh, sorry, didn't mean to cut you off.
Thank you. And just to reiterate that while I'm sure a lot of the things regarding the land use bylaw will come up, not every concern that a business has in town is specific to the land use bylaw. And one of the things, having been involved in the engagement world for most of my professional life, is sometimes people just want an opportunity with a blank slate and to be able to voice their mind. Sometimes I think we get to a point here where we send out an extremely long document and we give a long presentation about whether it's the MDP or the land use bylaw, and people don't know where their questions can fit in. So by having an open forum like this, it's a social opportunity as well. It's a chance for council and administration to get to know a lot of the businesses, but really it just gives them an open platform for them to be able to share some of their concerns and so that can really help us with how we go forward. So I think this is a really important way. And a lot of us talked in our campaigns about how we're committed to bringing businesses to town, but my concern is that if we just go back through the regular same old process, that we're not going to get the same level of engagement from people. It seems can be overstructured. While I appreciate that there will be an opportunity for us to comment on the engagement piece at the Committee of the Whole, again, that's specific to the land use bylaw. So I think this is a really good kickstart. Whether it ends up being $7,000, that's something that I certainly think would be beneficial and ultimately help attract businesses as well in the long run. If you're bringing a business into town, you're going to be chatting with other business owners and wanting to know what your experience is like with administration, council, how likely is it, how long does the process take. that sort of thing. So if we can show that we're willing to work with them, I think that'll help on the second piece, which is to bring other commercial businesses to town. So I again ask, I hope that the rest of council, sounds like we've got 3 out of 7 so far, so I hope you do support me with this motion.
Thank you very much. Yeah, just to wrap it up and move on. I still have the big fear that we're duplicating work that's already being done, but let's call the question and see what council feels. All in favor? Carried 6-1. Thank you. All right, call a quick 5-minute break. Well, it means we're doing it one way or the other. If that's what we voted for. Well, yeah. Well, now we have to find a way to fund it because you guys just voted to do it. We have. Well, unless somebody wants to add specifically to this line item, but. The motion was sometime in 2018. The conversation said do it sooner than later, but the motion is within 2018. I'm all for bringing businesses in. I just really think we're doing work twice. I honestly think we are. Yeah. Yeah.
So maybe that's how we start the session. Generally, to me, it's the same. Yeah, we can do both. No, that's okay. It's a good idea. The motion is good. By the way, I was going to say this to you before the meeting started. Getting lots of good feedback. In different places, in some places that we're sitting on, there's questions and different meetings.
Get everybody. I love it when Alan comes up. All right, call the meeting back to order. I'd like get everybody to take their seats. I need a gavel. I need a gavel. All right, item 7D, adoption of the 2018 consolidated budget operating capital. Mr. Harris, walk us through it.
Thank you, Your Worship. Hopefully my voice goes through nice. As requested at the February 20th Committee of the Whole, the following 4 updates were made to the 2018 consolidated budget. Number 1, bar chart was added, page 338 of 485. Number 2, basketball court was added, page 368 of 485. Number 3, snow plowing services level map for 52nd Avenue from 50th Street to 50th Avenue was added, page 389 of 485. It's been all highlighted red. Number 4, snow removal services map, page 390 of 485. Verbiage, twice a year removal based on snowpack levels. At this time, administration is recommending that council adopt the 2018 consolidated budget, operating and capital as presented.
Thank you very much. Sorry, I lost track of my sheet here. Okay. Can I get somebody to move that we adopt the 2018 consolidated budget and operating capital as presented? Councillor Daniluk.
Thank you, Worship. I so move accordingly. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any discussion on the motion or questions for administration? All right. Well, I got to be honest. The amount of talking that's gone on surrounding this budget, it would not have surprised me if we were back in the hole. But I'm pleased that everybody had the rabbit hole. The rabbit hole. I'm pleased that we had enough conversations and discussions that we could get to this point tonight, that it's a document that everybody appears to be supporting. So I will call the question. This one. Carried unanimously, yay. All right, next up, item 8A, bylaw 90217, land use bylaw amendments. TCMU temporary home-based businesses, second and third reading. Ms. Dargy. And I promise I won't forget you this time.
Thank you, Your Worship, and members of Council. So Council held a public hearing earlier this evening on this item. And so at this time, administration is recommending that Council give second and third reading to proposed bylaw 90217 to amend the TCMU district to include temporary home-based businesses.
Thank you very much. Can I get a councillor to move the motion? Councillor Stout.
Can I raise a point of order first?
Sure.
I'd like to understand better the reason for having the second and third reading in the same session. In particular, I'm thinking, if we've already made the choice on the second reading, what would there be to change our minds for the third? Because the arguments will be exactly the same. Could you clarify that for me, please?
Can we just have just a quick overview of process of why we do second and third, first, second, and third, please? Yeah. Ms. Mohammed.
Thank you, Your Worship. So in terms of Robert's rules, the reasons why they offer second and third is, and you can have them in accordance to the Municipal Government Act all in one night, is if you had voted on second and for some reason you had some thought that crossed your mind before third came up, you could not vote in favor of third. So it's just really part of that decision process laid out in Robert's rules.
Okay, thank you, I understand. But the last time we came to this point where I didn't want to vote for a third reading, merely because, not because I didn't support the bill, but simply because I hadn't had time, it was a very complicated item to reflect and make absolutely sure that I was making the right choice. if the third reading had been defeated, the whole thing would have taken another year to come back before us. That seems to me a desperate risk if I then have some second thought about in between the second and third readings.
The key to it, because I went and read Robert's Rules Order, and Ms. Winder can correct me if I'm wrong, but would be you wouldn't move third reading, you would move to table it to the next meeting, and therefore we'd be okay. But I'll let Ms. Winder speak to it.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to Councillor Stout. Yes, that is correct. You could defer third reading if you didn't want to move forward and table it to the next meeting. That is correct.
Very well, thank you.
The trick, though, is you got to do it before somebody moves the motion.
Yes.
That is correct.
Okay, on that understanding, I move that we make the second reading of the bylaw 902/17 land use bylaw amendments, TCMU, temporary home-based business.
Mouthful. Okay, thank you very much. Any discussion on the motion? Councillor Barnhart.
Thank you, Your Worship. And I just have one question, just to be really clear, because I do believe this is the way it does work. But Ms. Dargy, through the mayor, well, we're changing the bylaw, but we're not approving the applicant's permit at this point. That's another process once the bylaw has been done.
Your Worship, through to Councillor Barnhart, that's correct. So the delegated authority for this district is the development officer. So all council is doing is changing the regulations so that when the development permit is submitted to the development office, that's what we will refer to when we are approving and deciding on it.
Further to that, if I may, that's then anyone that applies would be held to the same
That's
criteria.
correct.
Thank you.
Councillor Moncaswain.
So mine's just a process question. When would I have a comment to whether we do second and third reading tonight?
Right after we approve or defeat second.
Okay.
Are there any further questions for Ms. Dargy on the motion, or any further discussion? All right, so we'll call the question. Hang on a sec. What the heck? Too far. Okay. Second reading carries 6-0. Can I get a motion to approve third reading? Councillor Stout.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd like to defer third reading until the next council meeting.
Why?
Simply so that I can review any of this information and make an informed decision.
Okay. Mr. Harris.
Thank you, Your Worship, to council and the public. There's another reason why, and I know the motion's on the floor to defer, there's another reason why you have second and third reading at the same time. If during those thoughts and review of it, you approach another resident, you have now contravened the public hearing, and you will have to hold another public hearing. That is generally the reason why you have second and third reading. Why on the, in relationship to Metro Edmonton and so forth, it has to be referred to Metro Edmonton for comment, but generally speaking, whenever there's a non-referral, council opens themselves up to question if they go and talk to the public after a public hearing has been held, and you would have to technically hold that public hearing again. I just wanted to, that's my impression, and that's how I've, for 17 years in local government, that is my understanding.
Okay. Councillor Moncaswain, comments on the motion?
Yeah, I certainly don't have 17 years in local government, so I won't speak to that eloquently, but ultimately my point is we had first reading, the gentleman came in and provided it. We got a good agenda package in advance, an opportunity to read it. There was a public hearing where there was an opportunity to ask questions. Ultimately, there was a comment, but no questions were asked from council. You know, that talked about wanting to get going right away here. I think just delaying this, I can't see what information you'd get from now until and 2 weeks down the road, what additional information you'd need to make a decision. And by delaying it is just, again, adding more process to a business that's wanting to get going. They've provided a really strong presentation, and you can see all the other businesses that are around there. I'd like to either defeat the motion and then make the motion to go to third reading right away.
Well,
I'm not sure how that works, but
we got to deal with Councillor Stout's motion, and then we'll get to third reading.
Sure. So my ultimate point is, I think we've had ample opportunity to review the information. They've provided good presentation a couple of times, and let's get going and vote on it.
Are there any further comments? Councillor Barnhart.
Thank you, Your Worship, and I would agree with Councillor. This is my first time saying your name probably. I would agree with your assessment of this, and I would suggest that perhaps if there's questions still not answered, that maybe Councillor Stout might want to ask those questions now, because I don't know what his information. I agree. I don't think we have the ability to get the information except to talk to residents, and that's not appropriate. So.
Fair enough. I got a couple of final comments before I turn it back over to Councillor Stout. Generally, like I'm not afraid to defer third reading if circumstances dictate it, but this is fairly straightforward. There was nobody here in great opposition. There was nobody here in speaking for it. Like echoing Councillor Munkoff-Swain, he's quite correct. It was a straightforward package. We had lots of time, and there was no great inrush of information that needs to be considered. So I'm going to be voting to go for third reading tonight and defeating your motion. Councillor Stout.
Thank you, Worship. Very well. I accept the comments that the other councillors have made and yourself. Yeah, I will withdraw that motion.
Fair enough. Can I get a motion to proceed to third reading? Councillor Munkoff-Swain.
I'll move third reading. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, call the vote. Carried 6-0. Thank you. Can somebody go get Councillor Hendricks? I'm not afraid to. All right, second bylaw on our agenda tonight, bylaw 895-17, our planned areas consolidated area structure plan. We're headed for second reading only because this one has to go to the MRB, right?
That is correct.
Thank you. Ms. Raymond, can you walk us through it?
Thank you, Your Worship and members of council. So we're here for council to give second reading to bylaw 895-17, our planned areas consolidated area structure plan. Since this bylaw has been here last in November, we have made several changes to this bylaw to remove acronyms, incorporate the proposed Lakeview neighborhood structure plan into the plan, and clarify how the plan will be implemented and amended. You will see a red line version that is attached as attachment 2 to this document. Based on the comments that we heard earlier tonight and some of the feedback that we received from council, we will be taking a further look at that prior to us bringing that back for third. But this will be the version that we will be sending off to the regional plan here for review and approval. Apparently I needed more coffee tonight. Thank you. Sorry. So we will also be including Lakeview Neighborhood Structure Plan as a supporting document to this to provide context as this goes through its review process to the board. This process is estimated to take approximately 60 days for review and approval through this, at which point we will bring that back. So we're targeting early summer. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can I get somebody to move second reading? Councillor Hendricks. Is there any discussion on the motion? Councillor Barnhart.
Oops. Thank you, Your Worship. And I just have one clarification. piece of information that I never quite understand exactly what you mean when you say no more outline plans will happen after this. So what's the good and the bad of that? What happens as a result of no outline plans?
Sure. So, through your worship to Councillor Barnhart. So as the result of the new Edmonton Metropolitan Region Growth Plan, we are not permitted to use outline plans anymore to plan our larger areas. We need to use an area structure plan. So with that, we have the lawn area structure plan that will have neighborhood structure plans underneath that. This is the area structure plan for all of those previously planned historic areas of Beaumont. I'm going to call them historic even though they're still developing out, but they're historic plans. So Dance Row and Colonial and all that stuff. Because we won't have outline plans, they'll all exist as an appendice within the consolidated area structure plan, and we will repeal all of those. We're not approving any new outline plans. Any plans that would happen, say for Lakeview, that's a neighborhood structure plan. It's the next level down, more detailed planning, which is similar to what the outline plans had been. They were very detailed plans for most of them. So that's where we will be going. They're just being replaced. It's changed as we've upgraded our planning system over the past year and a bit.
Follow up? Any? No? Councillor Stout.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a couple of quick comments and questions. I want to commend you for removing all the acronyms and replacing them with actual English words. I think it does a great deal to improve the readability and the comprehensibility, especially in you're a technically based professional person talking to a lay audience, and that does a lot for public engagement and comprehensibility. Certainly made it easier for me to read. So thank you for that. I think I know it's a lot of work. It adds a lot. It makes the document bigger and even more unwieldy. But I think it's well worthwhile. A couple of quick questions. Do we have any kind of date for the rural route 241 to be upgraded to a paved rural road? And I'm not going to hold you to this. It's just a top of the head feel for it.
Thank you, Your Worship, through to Councillor Stout. That would be identified within the capital plans, and it's typically done as development progresses. So when development warrants upgrading and stuff like that, but as to a more specific date, I don't know that right now, but we could get you some information on that.
Thank you. Follow-up question?
Sure.
I notice also that the region... I can't say it now. The area that was previously Plains Roya is now Lakeview. I'm just out of curiosity, who decides what these areas are called and why was the name changed?
Through Your Worship to Councillor Stout. Plains Royer was, I guess, what it was colloquially known as, because you have the Royer lands. They were the traditional landowners of that area. They farm in that area. The proponent for the neighborhood structure plan decided on the name Lakeview because it's adjacent to Beaumont Lakes, and there's water bodies in that area that they thought it sounded nice.
So it's a marketing decision, essentially.
Correct.
Thank you.
All right. Any further discussion on the motion? All right. Call the vote. Second reading passes 7-0. Thank you. All right, we now move to item 9A, Councillor Committee Reports. Can I get a motion? Councillor Danlick, would you like to move the motion to accept your committee report? Councillor Danlick, as information?
Yeah,
move it as information.
Sorry.
You're on.
I have to move, yeah, thank you.
Any discussion on the motion? Call the vote. Thank you. All right, are there any further councillors that wish to address the meeting this evening? Councillor Danluck, or did you just not turn your mic? I just not turn your mic
no.
on. Sorry. All right, hearing none, we'll move to the CAO. Item 10.
Thank you, Your Worship, members of council. I'll be really brief. Been a meeting close to 2 hours. I can't believe it's almost over. Covered a lot of ground. A couple announcements. One is Ms. Winter, beside me here, is now our Indeterminate Legislative Services Supervisor. At this point, she will be your prime contact, other than myself and the general managers, of course. And we are in the process of looking for an executive / legislative assistant, which will then provide that EA support directly to council. So congratulations, Shalane, and welcome.
Congratulations.
One of our regional partners, Leduc County, has reached out to us and is offering to host a joint council meeting. So we're going to send an email out with some potential dates. They're looking to try and do something in the month of March. They're going to graciously host that, so we will do that. May 4th, this is just a heads up, more formal invitation coming, is May 4th is a grand opening of Ecole Shams Ballet School that just opened a week ago Tuesday. So they're going to have a kickoff, and they'd like the mayor to say a few words, but again, we'll have a formal invite coming shortly. I had an opportunity to sneak into the school today, and no, not because I was the same height as everybody else who was in there, but I was actually invited, and wow, it doesn't resemble anything close to a school that I ever saw in my life. It's pretty impressive. So if you get the opportunity and get past security, I'd welcome you. You should take them up on it. So congratulations, first budget for all of us, this team. Now it's time to get down and get some work done and make this community even greater than it is, and we're really excited about that. And it's a good process, and here we go. That's all I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions for the CEO this evening? Okay, hearing none. There is no items of correspondence on the agenda this evening. Is there any councillors that wish to make a notice of motion? No. Are there any in-camera items? There are none currently scheduled. There you go. Meeting's adjourned. Thank you very much. Yeah, I think we should.
We also don't have a group photo of council.